I don't.
Suppose you need electricity.
I don't win anything.
Suppose you need electricity.
No, I don't. We're not going to do any actual turning. We're going to do some. I'm going to make a big mess, though, I guarantee you.
Make a different mess. A lathe is just a jig.
The lathe is a jig. Yep, exactly. All right, we're going to do a little bit of talking about fluting a bowl like this one. Again, to do it, the flutes come all the way down.
Try to use this as your primer.
Okay.
The tripod broke.
How did that break?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, they work better if you do them on a bowl that's kind of round shaped. You know, if you have a flatter bowl, a lot of the stuff back here gets buried underneath the bowl and you can't see it. And I kind of came up with this little idea, just doing it halfway down the bowl, and I think it looks better than trying to do that all the way down to the foot. Kind of interesting. This was a piece of pecan that Al Gruntwagon had, and it came from his shop. The wood itself was marked on the back of it when I got it. It was probably a core that he had done in 2012, and the only reason I know that is that on the back of the wood before I turned it, there was 8/9/12. August 9th of 2012 is when he cored the thing, so it was a dead giveaway.
Was it dry?
It was, oh yeah, it was dry. The shavings off of it made great kindling for a fire for the grandkids. And this one is actually it's Norfolk Island pine, between the branches. It's pretty, it really is when you take a look at it, and I'll pass both these around.
What's the finish?
It's about half finished right now. I've got about 4 coats of lacquer on it. When I finish these, first thing I do if I'm doing lacquers, I hit it with a lacquer sealer that is 50% lacquer sealer and 50% lacquer thinner. I thin out the sealer so that it'll soak into the wood. If you don't seal it, the first 2 or 3 coats of lacquer are going to seal it for you, and you're just wasting lacquer to put it on there.
Is that a spray can or?
I actually have gone to where like Lee has, or where I'm spraying it. You can actually buy the Chromacraft, which I like the best of all the lacquers in a quart can, and I do cut it about the same as you would cut the DEF, like 25%, but it sprays on real nice.
No orange peel?
No orange peel, no, it doesn't, unless you get really overly aggressive with the amount you're putting on, doesn't run, and it's nice stuff to work with.
Where do you get it?
I get it directly from Chromacraft out of Georgia.
Yeah, you buy it online.
You can buy it online, go and look up their website, Chromacraft.com, I believe.
Yeah, and you buy it in the quart container.
I buy it,
Aerosols.
yeah, I buy it in the quart container. Have, half a dozen of the aerosol cans in both gloss and satin.
Is it possible we could list some of this stuff, the supplies, where and what they are on the site?
Well, we could probably do some of that. But again, just go chromacraft.com and it'll come up.
Well, Jan came up with a good idea. We used to do it at the other club. All the things that we would normally use, like bandsaw blades, best supplier, best price or something like that, just like what you say, the Chromacraft lacquer. You've said that many times before. But if we have a place to go get it, we'll say it on the website, a sheet with all the best
Yeah, we can start doing that for some of the demos, and
Thanks
that
for
would help.
volunteering to do
I'm just
that.
about to say,
Yeah,
just about to say that.
I mean, everyone send me who their favorite supplier is, their name and their address, you know, their contact information. I'll make a list of everything that I get, and we can pass it out to the club.
I'm sorry, it's chroma-craft.com, that's what it is.
The only issue I see with that is they're constantly selling, so prices fluctuate so much. Bandsaw blades or whatever, I'll check a couple different places. So it's kind of tough to just, you're gonna be losing some money by just nailing down one spot.
yeah.
You can come up with 3 of them. It doesn't make any difference. We can just listen to about, but rather than somebody or Turner, they don't know where to go to get it. I mean, obviously Amazon is the quickest, but not necessarily the best.
Flute products in West Palm Beach, Georgia Avenue by South Boulevard. They got all kinds of finishes.
Yep.
I my lacquer.
Yeah, they do have all kinds of stuff. Glue Products, it's on Georgia Avenue, just south of Southern Boulevard. If you go to Dixie, go south, yeah, come on, guys. If you want to have private conversations, take them outside. So that's about it. In order to do the fluting, you got to have a little bit of equipment. First thing you got to have is an indexing wheel, especially if you're using a polymatic lathe, because the indexing system on these things, in one word, sucks.
Well, you got 180 degrees.
Yeah. So I've got several indexing wheels here. The ones I like the best, and unfortunately they're not being made anymore, because are these iron file indexing wheels. You can't get them anymore unless you buy them used, because they sold out to the people that were doing all the fluting, and they went broke about 2014. So these wheels are no longer available from Iron Fire LLC. It doesn't exist anymore.
Isn't there indexing wheels on the Vic Marks?
On the Vic Mark lathes?
No, on the trucks.
Yeah, but they're limited, okay?
You can't.
Okay, there are, if you want to use them, go ahead. These things were $30 if you can find them. You know, not a bad thing to pay for. You know, on these you got 4 different, if you read the numbers on here, the outer one is 60, 48, 36, and 14 on the inner wheel here.
What's it made out of?
It's made out of plastic.
So if, I know in Riviera Beach, there's a place that has plastic. I bet you if you found somebody that had a shape or origin, you could probably...
I know back when Jim Davis had 3D machine, he made up a bunch of these, but since he and the boys sold 3D machine about 5 years ago now, that option is no longer available. The ones that are available, probably the best I've seen out there, are these Alisam, I guess, engineering. And don't let the fact that it's in degrees on these wheels scare you away. You know, how many degrees are there in a circle? There's 360. So if the outer one is 3 degrees, you know, there's 120 holes in this outer circle. 4 degrees, well, 9 times 4 is 36, so there's 90. And then 5 is actually 72. And you don't have to use every single hole in every single wheel. You can skip, do it every other wheel or every other hole in the thing. All right. So this goes in. You also have to have something to hook this indexing wheel into. And on all my lathes, I've got one here for the Powermatics, and it just fits underneath here. And then what I've done is, from my steady rest, I've absconded with the thing that bolts it to the bottom, and I use this. And you could make one up real easy out of plywood. I'd put the pins in here, they're wide enough where they just jam into the edge here, but you need something to hold it. And if I can get my fat hand through here and line up the hole, oh, come on, Bruce. The hard part may be getting the screw in the hole here. There, I think that's got it going. Yeah. All right.
Be a better way in front of the temper.
Another one.
No, I'm using my Powermatic, so it should be this. Anyway, we'll pretend that's tight for right now. And then fortunately, these wheels, they come when you buy them, you have to specify your spindle diameter. These are set up for the 1 1/4, and it just fits on here and goes on the spindle like that. The most important thing, and the whole kit and caboodle, is this little pin right here, and I've taken mine and put a little knob on it so it's not quite as easy to lose. And because it goes through, and what I've done on the top of this board here that you can see, and I'll show you the other one, this one is actually for my robust lathe that I've got at the house, so it sits substantially higher than the one for the Powermatic, just because it has a 24-inch spindle height versus 20. And I've taken this at both the top and the bottom, all 4 holes line up. And so what I did when I was doing it was took a drill and just drilled it out, and that's where you get the 4 holes coming up and down the bottom here. So if I'm using the bottom row, I just put the pin in, whoops, and it's still giving me grief here. And we go from there. Get that top on. Don't lose that thing. There it is. You know, and I keep very close watch on this, because if you lose it, you're going to find a pin that size,
Just use an old drill bit.
an old drill bit or something like that, but it fits in. Alrighty. That's on there. And then I'll put this on. And I'm going to change. Yeah. It will be done up there. So, whoops, you can't do it with the pin in, dummy.
Dividing pi by pi.
Hmm?
When you lay it out, you're just dividing the diameter of the bowl by pi, or?
No. When I lay it out, I'll talk about that in a minute. what I'm doing. I start. There we go. I found the hole. Why that thing won't tighten up, I don't know. So anyway, I've got this, and you gotta pick the number of how many flutes do you want on the outside of the bowl. The little piece that was floating around here, he's got them back there. The little one's got 48, the bigger bowl's got 60 in it. And I think those look fairly decent as far as the numbers go. No, that's fine, go ahead and keep them. We're done. Has everybody seen them? They've been around? Okay, great.
How do you determine the number of flutes in the bowl?
Whatever looks good, to be honest with you.
Well, if it's a smaller bowl.
If a smaller bowl, you're going to have less flute because they're going to be smaller in diameter. This bowl here that I put on is bigger in diameter, and there are 60 flutes in it, and they're probably a little over a half inch, probably 5/8 of an inch. This one is smaller in diameter, got 60 flutes, and they're probably 3/8 or bigger. This one you're actually going to have to use two separate cutters on to get it to work right. You'll have one here for the inside, and then another one, a wider one out here on the outer diameter of it. Did I forget to bring those? Uh-oh. Yes, I did.
The cutter?
No, well, we can work around it. And then you're going to need a stand to put the cutter on. I use a little Dremel tool to cut these things with. And it comes down and goes in. The stand for the tool rest, and this is a piece of melamine. Doesn't have its no particular shape. It's just one that I cut to kind of fit what I was doing. And then you need a cutter.
Did you use the melamine because it stays perfectly flat?
It stays perfectly flat, and it slides better than plywood. Yeah, that's why I use the melamine. It has a little bit less friction. And I made a stand from my Dremel tool, and it slides around fairly good. Have we got the live center for the back end of this thing, or the toolbox somewhere? And then you've actually got to bring it up a little bit.
So what height do you want that grinding burr on?
I want it right in the center of this. I want it dead center.
Now, is there going to be any adjusting you have to do since you did this one at your house?
Yeah, there's going to be a whole lot of adjusting that I would have to do to get it started.
This is a whole different lathe.
And this is a whole different lathe, and it sits a little bit weird. But what I try to do is take the grinding tool and line it up dead center on the revolving center. And that's pretty good right there.
It looks a little low from this angle.
Well, maybe it is a little bit low. Okay, just bring it up a touch.
that, but,
We can fix that. Okay. This is a Dremel tool. It's electric. It takes these sanding discs with a 1/8" shaft on them. And if you're wanting to know where to get them, go to Kleinspor. And they sell them as a kit. I mean, this catalog is old. Nobody's producing catalogs anymore, I don't think. But it's still got the stuff here. And it's this mini-sized drum sanding kit. And you can buy the discs. They're like, for a package of 5, they're, $5 or $6 a piece. And they come in fine, which is 150 grit, all the way to coarse, which is 60. I usually buy the 60 and then the 150 package each. Good to go.
you put those flutes with sanding discs?
Yep.
Or do you have a different?
I use the sanding disc now. You can also use the burrs that you get from MSC and the company that sells all these things. They do all, and these work real well too. Yeah, I would use these to start with, and then I would finish off with the sanding, the 150 grit sanding here to smooth it out. Yeah.
What do you use for larger flutes?
You can get these discs all the way up to 2 inch.
You're still using those sanding discs?
Yeah, I use
larger size.
but you can use a larger size. I've got another box of them at home. I mean, these go from this size to this size in the smaller discs. Pass them around too. The burrs here, you can buy them. I think the yellow are the fine, and then they've got a green one that I think is, you can get these through. But
See, and I thought they were using a router with like a half round on it.
no. Got a bowl on here, and I'm going to switch this one out here in a second. Oops. I haven't drawn any lines on this one, and it'll be easier.
Forward.
Now, you got a curve on that side that's closest to you. Is that to go around the profile of the bowl?
Well, yeah, I'll flip it around and spin it around. Well, with this thing, I find, we'll talk about that in a second, that as long as I can use this, I can get back all the way back on the bowl, just like that. Okay, and then my approach would be to bring it around like that.
How long would it take you to do that whole wall?
It takes a couple hours. This is not something you do in 15 minutes, It's a project.
So do you have a fan and dust collector going?
I've got a fan with a AC filter on it and a dust collector going. It'll pile up here, and it's great sawdust. If you keep sawdust to fill cracks in a piece of mahogany, it is the perfect filler, I can tell you that. Mix it with a little epoxy and it'll fill it perfectly.
How long do those little discs last? Can you do
I can do a whole bowl with one, yeah. Yep,
Depending on the wood.
depending on the wood, yeah. If they start getting really bad, it's like everything else. How long do you have to go between sharpening your gouge? Depends on the wood.
Worn out 100 sandpaper is not 200.
Yeah, exactly. We've heard that story coming through here before too. Another thing you could use if you've got a big compressor at home is an air grinder. And I made the same thing here. Nice thing about this, it'll accept a bigger diameter shank on the stuff. It'll go up to a 1/4 inch.
What is the biggest problem you had when you're fluting? Is it turning the...
It's keeping, number one, if you push too hard, because they're getting dull, you burn the wood. Biggest problem you have. A little bit of burn, and I don't mind, because I'll come back with
Doing each flute in a single cut or doing multiple?
Yeah, I do each flute with a single cut. I'll come around here and I'll come up, okay, I need that much depth to go from, and I'll show you how I mark it out here in just a second. My marking device is really sophisticated. Okay, it's a piece of wood with a pencil sticking out of it.
Nice piece of work.
Pardon me? I don't have a walnut marking tool now.
Rosewood, yeah.
Again, I set this up where the pencil is going to come through the point, and that's way high right now, so I got to drop this down.
Just out of curiosity, what you put the
I mean, it would be way low if I flipped it over here. It's bitch. God damn.
You don't get a break.
Bitch.
That one is brutal.
Guys are as bad as some of the guys that used to be in here.
Now, do you always like have it that far out, or do you go for a shorter pencil?
A lot of times I just couldn't find the one I'd been using, which is probably about yay long, so I started with a new pencil. If you're careful, it's not a big deal. Once you've set this thing, don't monkey with it, keep it the same. If you start messing with it, you're gonna screw things up. So what I do is I just come in here and slide the block.
If you're doing darker wood, you use like a pencil white lead?
Yep, I've used, some with like white.
White pencil.
Cindy uses white pencils all the time in her silk work when she's sewing the fabric.
And I just kind of mark that. And then move it one spot. And this is with 60, and I'm getting fairly loose. Again, this is a little wider bowl. you may have to use two separate cutters on here to
Don't monkey with it.
I know, what the hell, it's been a tough day. So we'll draw a few more.
It's only 10 o'clock.
Yeah, it's gonna be a rough, if it's all,
It's gonna be a long day.
it's gonna be a long day.
You ever try fluting the inside?
I have not. I've done one where it was kind of a wave, a scallop all the way around the thing.
Also like alternating.
Yeah, so you had one on the outside, one on the inside. Doing the inside ones are a pain in the butt, as far as I'm concerned, because trying to get a nice curve. And again, the whole key, you've got to be able to turn a decent bowl. The fluting and any kind of, design work, sculpturing and that stuff on the outside. Yeah, it's not there to make up for a piece of wood.
And it still needs to be true and round.
Yep,
Can't be warped at all out of ovalish.
so,
Have you ever tried using a ball bar?
well, again, I've used the smaller ones. I didn't bring, I've got a whole rack of the MSC burrs in there.
Do they work well?
They work well, yeah, they're more aggressive than the sandpaper. What I would do would be a rough pass with those, and then go back and take the sandpaper and sand it out smooth. Believe me, you don't want to spend the time with a piece of sandpaper in your hand going around those flutes, so, it will take,
A lifetime.
Well, and the other thought on that too is some of those burrs are quite aggressive and chippy. And you don't want to
Well,
be
you
on
start
the last
chipping down.
flute, chip it, and then have.
Yeah.
As a jeweler, I used to buy those burrs like crazy, and you can buy them like different quarters.
oh yeah, you can do the same thing through MSC. They've got them in coarse, medium, and fine. So, and
The sanding drums, I used to buy them by the bag. They were very inexpensive. I used to
Yeah.
have them a lot.
How long ago was that?
20 years ago.
Okay, they're not inexpensive anymore.
I didn't say inexpensive, I said you buy them by the bag instead of $5.
Yeah.
Very well.
So then, so Bruce,
Is this Norfolk?
I mean,
so you go and mark the entire,
when I'm going around it, I will lay out the entire bowl before I even start cutting. That way, if I get around and I don't like it, I can, with an eraser, until you actually put the burrs on there and start cutting them out.
and then the thickness of your sides then, when you're gonna do this, you really need to pay attention to that.
Yeah. And shallow one deep and,
You have a few of those on this.
complain.
I'm not criticizing, but I was wondering earlier if you didn't draw a line on the,
Yeah.
but we only did this much. Did you cut that and do a recess? Turn this later?
That was an experiment.
Okay,
I started out putting the bead
yeah.
where you come around there. But with the burrs, when you're cutting the flutes, you dig into that bead, and it looked like junk, it looked bad. So I tried to recut the bead, and that didn't work, so I finally just said, the heck with the bead, took it all off of there, and that looks I think that looks nice right there, yeah.
So you had the flutes, and then you just cut it.
I cut the bead off and recut that little surface coming from,
For fixing all the screw-ups, when you go a little too deep and too far.
well, the bead was there, I was hoping I could leave the bead, but every time you go to cut the bead, or cut the flute close to it, you end up hitting it. And then you end up with a bunch of ends on those flutes where the wood is burned and it doesn't look real nice. So I just do away with it.
The depth of the flute is different
As you get wide,
when you're moving your Dremel tool, I'm just thinking aloud that, oh, they're about the same, yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking that the depth here is different than here. How do you keep that constant?
I try to keep it, I do it by eye, I try to, but if it's off a little bit, it's not gonna, believe me, I'm not gonna take a micrometer and get in there and measure and see if the depth is the same all the way around.
Oh, you just gotta keep it.
If you're using them, if you're doing it on a bigger bowl, yes, as you come out, it's gonna get wider between the lines. And this cutter, and on these I went to this cutter, and that one fit right in to the hole. Let me get